issues with also trade in focus, and what we are learning in the latest is that US Vice President JD Vance is to be accompanied by the senior members of the US administration alongside his family during the India visit. Now, Vance is also expected to be accompanied by at least 5 senior US officials, including the representatives from the Pentagon and the State Department, hinting at the strategic weight of the impending discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Meanwhile, at the Indian side, the delegation will be led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and will be expected to include External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, National Security Advisor, the NSA Ajit Doval, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, and Indian Ambassador to the US Vinay Mohan Kwatra, according to the officials. Very shocked. Thank you very much for sharing your views with us, and I'll request you to kindly stay on with us. As the Trump's second in command will be meeting the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and talks are expected on focusing the finalizing the bilateral trade agreement and deepening strategic and economic ties amid the escalating trade tensions between Washington and the Beijing, where the delegation of US government officials, including all the US National Security Council, Senior Director for South and Central Asia, Ricky Gill, will also be there. Now, joining me on the broadcast is Adrian Calamil, who's a terrorism scholar and fellow at the Arabian Peninsula Institute. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. All right, I'm being told that he will be joining us in a bit, while Arvind Mahajan is going to join us on the broadcast, Lamar Savings Professor of Finance. Thank you, sir, for joining me live this morning. Appreciate you joining me. At this point, what is the expectation overall from the world that is looking at this crucial visit? And when terrorism is one such issue that India has very strongly expressed their stand at, and also in fact taken the steps with the extradition of the Hawur Rana and proved it to the world that they are not going to forget what has happened while there were lives that have been lost in the name of the plot that has been hatched and the conspiracy by Pakistan. Terrorism is also something that will take a lot of weight of this crucial talks. While there are strategic ties, the areas of cooperation and trade definitely, but the terrorism is one such issue that recently has taken a lot of focus by the Indian security agencies also, who have been to Washington.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Well, all right. If you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Yes. What I wish to ask is that how do you feel that the part where terrorism is going to also take a weight in that crucial dialogue and the conversation, as India has been pressing against its own agenda, and when the officials of the security agencies have been to Washington for the extradition of the Hawur Rana as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the focus of these talks really has been taken over by trade, because tariffs have been the talk for the last couple of months. But really, this visit, in a way, is, from my perspective, meant to augment a variety of factors, in particular trade and economics, but also strategic, as the previous speakers mentioned. And terrorism, of course, will be a part of it, but terrorism usually is something which is discussed more in the background than on the foreground. Unlike, for example, trade talks, which are much more straightforward in some ways. So I'm sure that terrorism will be discussed, although I'm not sure if that is necessarily the front burner issue for the Vice President's visit. At least that's my opinion.
Mr. Mahajan, but at the time when it is one of the largest issues that India is also grappling with, do you expect Indian side should be raising this issue as well? Because there are extraditions that have taken place in the past, and that also was possible as there were visits and by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US and with the delegation when such deals were actually finalized.
No, absolutely. There's no question about it. I think this administration's done really a great job in pushing the terrorism agenda, especially in the context of the United States. And clearly, Prime Minister's visit and the recent extradition of Mr. Rana is clearly an indication of that. as far as what happens in the context of Bangladesh and Pakistan, I think a lot of that probably will be behind the scenes. It's unclear what really triggered the Bangladesh thing. Fingers have been pointing in many different directions, including towards the United States in some media reports. So it's unclear to me how that will get played out, but there's no question in my mind that the Indian administration is going to keep its foot on the pedal in as far as the terrorism issue goes, and in particular in relation to Pakistan. But I think the focus of these talks, again, from my perspective, are going to be focused on trade and more strategic issues like the national security vis-a-vis China and in the Asia Pacific.
Well, that is definitely something that will take a major chunk of the dialogues, as there are sources in the Ministry of External Affairs which are hinting that all the relevant topics would be discussed, but that is something which already is expected. Right now, which is also in focus, so in pertaining to the relations with US, is a big issue of the crackdown of visas and also the mass deportation that have happened recently. Well, to speak on that,